Got some goods in. Hail.
Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I thought I'd do a build update number 2 for day 2 at this stage. So far, build's looking pretty good. So Guardian damage, Guardian Shaper damage, or Pinnacle Boss damage is like 8.9 mil with buffs up. This is only taking into account like Brittle Ground and a few other things like Onslaught, Fortified, Leeching, and I have Adrenaline coming from my Tanuahi. And obviously, I account for this spending time standing still, but if not, we go to 7.5 mil and we lose some defensiveness. But anyway, we'll talk about the config next in the video. So, overall, I've made some changes to the build. So, some things I've managed to squeeze a cluster jewel into it now, and I've managed to get Fuel the Fight, and this is giving me a huge amount of mana leech, which means that I am not needing to run a arrogant setup with clarity any longer. And I was able to add back in precision into the build, which has given me a ton of accuracy, which for the jug gives me increased attack speed because of the undeniable ascendancy when it wants to move. There we go. The other thing it gives me is a huge amount of crit. So, like, just standing still is like 39%, 54%, and taking into account brittle is like 93.58% crit. So we're doing pretty good on that front. Now, the POB is a little weird because of the helm. So I've just slapped in a Devoto's Devotion in there, which, you know, is a decent helm, more or less now. But basically, the actual helm in the build is like this. And the reason why it's weird is because this is one of the new helms. So I'm not too sure of the damage differential, but I'd say it's okay. Things I've added since are a Magnate. I've managed to get brittle on my boots, which is really easy now. You can just go to Foster's and basically just trade resonators and make simple currency. I've also added in a replica at Series Foible. These are like 8C, so dirt cheap. The Magnate's like 38C. They're going up a little bit. Emperor's Vigilance is dropping in price. So if you don't have Emperor's Vigilance, still use Lionized Remorse or something similar to that. Tanuahi's 1C, so dirt cheap, and Replica Dream Feathers are like 5C, so they're basically worth nothing. And obviously I got my 6-link from shipping as well. Lion's Roar is worth like 2C. So the gear in this build so far is really cheap, and even the Cluster Jewel was pretty cheap. So if we just have a look at this, yeah, it was like 50C, something like that. But yeah, anyway, let's get into the config, talk it through, and then we'll go through the gearing of where it's up to now. Okay, so to start off strong here, so we've got Soul Inara, Soul Tsukahama are your souls, gods that you want to do Pantheon. I do have time spent stationary 5 because we are finally using the Nature's Patience duel, which is ineffective to the Jug on the basis of the Jug uses the Ascendancy Unstoppable, so it means you can't be slowed, so you get the buff with no downside. It also gives you a good chunk of damage, like 1.2 mil as well. Power charges come from Assassin's Mark on hit. Our frenzy charges come from our point over here, which is Mark Mastery. So this gives us 10% chance to get frenzy charge, so we keep that up all the time. Endurance charges is coming from unflinching on the Ascendancy. So if we have a look at the Ascendancy, boom, over here, that's how we get endurance charges. It's not as effective as Unbreakable, and the build is nowhere near as tanky as what it used to be since that change. However, once we get Fourth Vow into the setup, it should pretty much fix that problem, and that'll be in a video in a couple days or a few days, and I'll give you a POB as well for getting the build to like 14 mil off of this tree with the gear upgrades that you need to do. So Fortified is coming from my setup, so I did change my skill setup. So I did just switch out melee physical damage for Fortify at this stage, and everything's like level 19, so we're not capped yet. Adrenaline and Onslaught come from Tanuahi. Tanuahi are just like the best gloves ever. So that fixes a lot of problems, and we get a good amount of leech and attack speed with that too. If you can get Corrupted Gloves with implicit attack speed, that's the preference too. Outside of that, so we got 10 enemies nearby. Yep, we're always leeching. Have we been hit recently? Probably. Blood Stance, Sand Stance obviously drops our DPS down, but you know, that's still not too bad. But Blood Stance, yes, you're going to hit bosses pretty hard. The footage in the video at the very start was taken before I made a bunch of other upgrades too. So yeah, we're getting there. The tank ability against Elemental is just one issue right now. Melee distance to enemy, basically you're going to be standing on them, so it's like a unit of 1. Brittle is coming from the boots, as noted, so I've got the brittle roll on my boots as well, which is just a Eldritch, like lesser Eldritch, whatever that's called, can't remember off the top of my head. And then Guardian and Pinnacle boss damage, no other changes. So banners as well, so use War Banner, and it's planted with a stack of 50 Valor as well, so we could like take this down to 10. In fact, for those who want to hate on the build, 7.1 million DPS by day 2 is pretty good on a build like this. So it's done pretty well. And 63,000 effective hit pulls, not too bad. That's probably the average of most slam builds right now, but we're going to take this well over to the 200 plus in the next week. But anyway, that's the config. Let's talk about the gear. Okay, so for gearing wise, helm, same helm as last video, no change. Emperor's Vigilance. I have changed the amulet to at Series Replica at Series Foible. It's really cheap, gives you a lot of regeneration, means you don't have to run attribute nodes in your tree as well, so you can get rid of these nodes as well, which is great. Outside of that, I've also got it anointed with infused flesh, and we also have damage taken recouped as life on the ring, so we have 22% on there plus 18%, so we have 40%. Basically, we have a Defiance of Destiny sort of configuration here. Rings, Chaos Res where we can, and any life. Rings now roll with absolutely bonkers life rolls, so we're getting a lot more life on this than what we were able to do in the past. Chest, no change from the one that I showcased in the first video this morning. Replica Dream Feather, ideally we want to get a corrupted variant of this with Fortify on hit, but we're not there yet, because once we get that, then we can ditch the Fortify on the chest setup and we can chuck back in melee physical damage. Tanuahi, obviously, best gloves for this type of build, or any type of build like this, initially, and the Magnate, which is reasonably cheap now, but yeah, the chance to get double and triple damage just can't be avoided, though I can't get triple damage yet because I've only got 344 strength. And then I've got my boots, which haven't changed except for the implicit rolls, so generate 0.2 life per second on endurance charges and drops brittle ground while moving. Flasks, I've managed to auto-link all the flasks, so they're now the use when charges reach full, just from basically just using Faustus to get quick currency from resonators. I've already made like 2 or 3 div out of just selling resonators. They're selling for like 1 for 1 right now, which isn't too bad. And then basically I've added in Lion's Roar, which gives pushback as well. And yeah, and basically we're overcapping reses here too. So fire and lightning for now. Cold is a bit of a problem, but I think I get to like, if I can do this, 86% there. So we're starting to like overcap reses to compensate for Unbreakable no longer being in the build. Anyway, that's it for gearing. Okay, so for gem setups, in the helm, Precision, Vitality, Arrogance, and War Banner. In the first weapon, Herald of Purity, Assassin's Mark, and Mark on hit support. In the shield, Determination, Flesh and Stone, Blood and Sand. In my chest, I've got Shield Crush, Pulverize, Impale, Multi-Strike, Brutality, and Fortify support. In my gloves, Automation, Molten Shell, Blood Rage, and Phase Run. And in my boots, I've got Seismic Cry, Urgent Orders. So the reason why we run this is it's really quick, right? If we didn't have that, it'd be really slow and it would slow the pacing of how you do your war crying up, and it just, yeah, it sucks. So a little bit longer cooldown. So if we take this out, you can see it takes a lot longer. If we've got it in, really short. And then we have shield charge and life tap, so it doesn't cost us any to move around. And that's great because we rely on leeching mana, not regenerating mana now to sustain our mana pool. Okay, so for the tree. So right now we're at level 90. I did take the points off here to basically free up some extra points for the tree. So basically we now come down here, right? I also picked up Prismatic Skin to overcap reses. We always had these points here, so we come down, same here, everything's basically all the same, except for, no, we haven't got to it yet. We come down here, basically all the same. Now we have a cluster jewel set up in here, and so far I've got Fuel the Fight and Prodigious Defense. And then one more level up to level 91, I'll be able to put another point in and put a crit multi-jewel in here with some life. And then Nature's Patience, which gives me Nature's Patience. Then we come up Bloodless, Shield Node here for Aggressive Bastion. Sorry. And then Cannibalistic Rite into Juggernaut. Now we have Seething Fury is super important in this build. Basically gives you an absolutely mental amount of damage, and that stems off the Emperor's Vigilance because it scales off of Energy Shield off the Emperor's Vigilance, right? And the Emperor's Vigilance has a lot of energy shield, so huge buff. And then basically Barbarism, and then Disemboweling with the crit mastery here. All in all, I think we come to 472% crit multiplier at 93%, 93.58% crit right now with a 100% chance to hit. So hits pretty hard. It's pretty good. It's somewhat tanky-ish. Handles T16s pretty easily. But yeah. Okay, so content I've covered so far. We've done both first two Void Stones pretty easily. In fact, we just face tank everything. We have finished 68 of 115 maps, and we're down about 191 depth and delve right now. So yeah, we're 194 depth and delve, and we're just steadily pushing down without any major issues. I wasn't able to kill Cortex yet, but that was before a whole swath of upgrades that I've done on this since. But once I get 4th Vow, I should be able to just face tank bosses without any issues. And then the next step will be adding a Zabiqua, Glorious Vanity into it. And this thing will be a absolute powerhouse after that. Anyway, if you like this video, if you're having fun with the build, don't forget to let me know in the comments. And also don't forget to like and sub to the video. And I will probably be on Twitch after, and then I got to go to work at like an ungodly hour. But yeah, anyway, I'll see you there, and have a good one.